Thank you, Melissa. Boy. You know, there's a lot of moving parts that takes this wonderful happening every Sunday to come to be. And I'm so grateful for all the volunteers and the staff, everyone, the choir. There's so many people that make this thing so special. And one of the things we always do is we hand out a bulletin every Sunday and want to leave you with some inspiring words that you can take home with you and reflect upon during the week. And so, since I was doing the big talk this week, I had to come up with something inspiring to say. So I came up with a few statements, and then I wanted to call on the big guns. I wanted to think about somebody who's famous and who's been celebrated for how inspiring they are. So as you go down the list, you'll see that I'm referring to Benjamin Franklin and what a great inspiration he was in so many ways. And then below Benjamin, somebody said something about forgiveness. And it was really good. So I thought, to make this service complete, that I might want to share with you that it was Oprah. And it was really good. So she said that forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past can be any different from what it already was. So thank you, Oprah. And today we're going to talk about honoring the past, the present, and the future. And of course, it's Memorial Day, so we've got this great opportunity to honor the veterans that are here. If anybody is a veteran, if you would be so kind as to stand up and let us truly honor you. And thank you for the service that you gave to this country. Each and every one of you are such an inspiration. You are a hero. And as I was thinking about Memorial Day, I thought about some history that I learned in school. I grew up in Texas. I am born and bred Texan. And at an early age, Texas history is tattooed on your brain so that you can know everything there is about the great state of Texas. And one of the things that I remember very fondly is a particular battle, the Battle of the Alamo. It was told in such great detail about how the frontiersmen, they were led by William B. Travis and Jim Bowie were the leaders. Davy Crockett was there. You know, it's kind of legend. When something really awesome happens, it seems like the story goes that everybody was there. Like, remember Woodstock? Yeah, everybody was there. So the Alamo was kind of the same way. Everybody was there. There were these 200 people defending this tiny little fort in South Texas. And they were up against the Mexican army that had thousands and thousands of soldiers. And they had made a commitment to fight to the death because they felt so strongly a sense of purpose about what they were doing to win the great state of Texas. And so the story goes that they called for reinforcement and only a few came. And they fought vigilantly and diligently and with every ounce of energy within them for 11 days until they were all killed. The sadness and the sorrow that came from that battle, out of it grew a rallying cry, remember the Alamo, that enabled everyone else who was fighting that war to have a sense of purpose and to find within them that inner strength, that additional power to go that extra mile. And in fact, they won the war. In fact, Texas still to this day kind of thinks we're our own nation. We kind of pretend to be one of the 50 states, but yeah, we really know we're better than everybody else. But it is that sense of purpose that they had. Remember the Alamo, that rallying cry that enabled people who might have thought of themselves as being ordinary or not having what it took in order to win the battle. And they found that strength within that rallying cry to call up that power from the depths of their being. And so I thought today, with it being Memorial Day weekend, that we would reflect upon how do we have our own rallying cry? What is that that gives us a sense of purpose? And how do we honor the past, the present, and the future by having that great sense of purpose beyond ourselves? So let's start with the past. We all have one. And if I were to ask you to think about your past, reflect upon it for a moment, and think about what might have been a turning point in your life, something that might have sent you off in a new direction, either in a good way or a bad way. Sometimes we have turning points in our life, and they're not really visible until long past, when we can look back and reflect upon our past and see what happened at a particular moment. Can everybody think of a turning point in your life? Something that made a difference? And if we reflect upon those turning points, we can look at our past and we can learn from it. We can each ask ourselves the question, when I think about my past, what have I learned? Not to wallow in it or belabor it or to live in it, but to take what is best from the past and learn from it and to understand what will I do differently based on what I have learned from the past. So honoring the past in that way can be a very powerful experience where we learn, we forgive if necessary, we figure out what we're going to do differently, and then we let go and move on. And so if someone was to come up to you today and say, tell me a little bit about yourself, what would you say? You might say something like, oh, well, I did this, or I have that degree, or something like this happened to me. Or you might talk about in the present terms, oh, I'm so happy today, or I'm having this wonderful job, or whatever it might be in the present. Or if someone were to come up and ask you, tell me about yourself, you might tell them about the future and the plans that you have and something exciting that you're looking forward to doing. And all of those things, the past, the present, and the future, are all part of define our life. And I wanted to share how grateful I am that we are not solely defined by our past, because I have a really juicy one. A few husbands thrown in there. Yeah, miscellaneous jobs and difficulties and bad behavior, and hopefully some of you out there can relate. I am so grateful that I don't have to be defined solely by my past. And there's a documentary that I've watched that is so powerful to me. It gives me such inspiration. It's called Bob and the Monster. And it's about a musician-songwriter named Bob Forrest. And in his early career, he was being recognized that he had such amazing talent that people were starting to talk about him like John Lennon or Bob Dylan. And yet Bob, in taking these talents that he had, Bob Forrest turned to drugs and alcohol and lost everything he had. And so Bob went through 9 rehabs. Now, the good part of the story is that Bob is now a celebrated recovery counselor. He is thought to be an expert in his field of counseling with people who have drug and alcohol problems, and he's been sober for 12 years. But imagine if you had been a friend or family member of Bob in rehab number 5. What would you have said to Bob then? Or what if that's your own story? What if there's something that you've been trying to overcome and you're having the 5th attempt at trying to do something in a more skillful way? What could we say to ourselves that would make that number 5 the one that took, the one that worked, the one that was the turning point, the one that made the difference? And so now we get to the point that this is the present moment. And this is all we have to work with. There is only one requirement for you to make an amazing transformation in your life. Simply one. You must still be breathing. Bad news, if you're not breathing, you're going to have to wait till next lifetime. But simply all it takes, that if you are in this moment, if you are still here breathing, I think I still got everybody with me. Nobody's died on me yet. That's all it takes. Because there is an amazing amount of power in each moment to make a decision to do something differently. And most of the time, we're not even present in the present to know what's going on. And so there's this possibility that we can train our mind to be more fully present in the moment so that we can harness all this energy that is available to us moment by moment. And in fact, each moment is the only moment you have to make a difference. You can't have acted differently in the past. You have not yet experienced the future to act then. We can only act in the present. So it's a really good idea to show up and be present. So let's experience that for a moment right here. You leave your eyes open. We're just sitting here all together. We've confirmed that everybody is still breathing. And just take this moment to breathe in and breathe out and have the experience of being alive. There are sounds. There are phones. Just part of this experience. There are other phones. They must know that we're taking this moment to be present. Oh, I'll call him then. I know he'll be ready. Even the phone can be part of being fully present in this moment. Any sound, any sensation, any thought, any emotion that you're having in this exact moment, imagine that it's just perfect, left just the way it is. Nothing to do, nothing to undo, nothing to fix. Just listening to the phone. I often talk about the fact that we need mental cues in order to remind us to be fully present. And I find that cell phones ringing is one of the best ways. Isn't that awesome? Thank you so much for having your phone ring. That we'll all go out this week, and every single time we hear a cell phone ring, we'll go, I'm remembering to be present. It can be that simple. We got to show up, be fully here, not trying to leave anything out, but bring all our energy into the present moment, and how powerful we can be when we focus our energy on being aware. And the next thing is this future thing. We all have some sort of future. It might be a minute. It might be a decade. We have no idea how much more time we have on this earth. So what shall we do? We sort of have two options. We can have high expectations, or we could have low expectations about the future. And some people would say, you know, it's really best to just have low expectations about the future. That way you're never disappointed. And in fact, there's a scientist who has been studying this exact phenomenon. And it turns out that the majority of us have something called the optimism bias. Actually, we're fairly optimistic. We have an expectation that things are going to get better in the future. And so when the scientist Tali Sharot studied people who are both optimists and pessimists, she found out that being optimistic is actually good for your health. And the reason is that optimists have an interesting way of interpreting the world. Optimists, if they succeed, take full credit for whatever happened. It was my good planning. I just thought it up. I'm pretty smart. And for optimists, if something goes wrong and they fail, oh, it just wasn't the right time. You know, it was unfair. There was something wrong. The circumstances just weren't what they were supposed to be. But next time, I'm going to succeed. And people who have low expectations and are pessimists do exactly the opposite. If they are successful, oh, it was just luck. Gosh, I can't even believe it happened. How on earth did I succeed? And if they fail, oh yeah, that was all my fault. I'm stupid. I'm dumb. Of course it didn't work. And so it's amazing to understand that this optimism bias can actually work in our benefit because it encourages us to set high expectations. The second thing that's great about being optimistic is that it is good for your health in the way that anticipation of good things actually reduces stress and causes us to feel good. The scientist did this wonderful study where she took some college students and gave them an opportunity. They said, think of some celebrity that you would like to have come and kiss you. How much money would you pay for that? And so she asked them, how much money would you pay to have the celebrity come kiss you right now? To have the celebrity come kiss you in 3 hours, in a day, in 3 days, in a year, or 10 years? And what she found is that people were actually willing to pay to postpone the gratification. It turns out that most of them they were willing to pay a premium to wait 3 days to kiss the celebrity. Because that sense of anticipation, what's it going to be like? I get to tell all my friends first. I get to have that excitement of thinking about what's going to happen in 3 days. You know, a year from now or 10 years from now, oh, I don't even know if I want to kiss that celebrity. But 3 days, I have that sense of excitement. And that actually physiologically makes you feel better. And the last thing is having high expectations actually is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It causes us to work harder for those dreams. And so this can be part of our purpose, is when you think about what you want the rest of your life to be about, think about how you can have high expectations. And the last thing I want to mention is include having service to others in some way as part of that rallying cry for the future. Minnesota Stroke Institute did a study on 4,000 people with cats. And they studied these guys for 10 years, and they found that people who took care of cats had a 30% less likelihood of having a heart attack. Now, I'm a dog person myself, and they didn't test dogs, but they did add this little disclaimer at the end of the research saying, well, probably dogs are work too, I don't know. But it is that sense of taking care of something outside of yourself. Being of service to others can give us this sense of meaning to our life and can have us be happy. And so we can honor our past, our present, and our future. And we can have a rallying cry that reminds us of the sense of purpose that we have in our life. So I thought that we would take that into meditation and that each of us could just reflect on that. What would be your rallying cry? Let's think about that. As we take this time in meditation, just take a few slow, full, deep breaths, breathing in, holding that breath for a moment, and then exhaling completely. Just allowing this time and this place to be for you. This opportunity to honor your past, to honor the present, and to honor the future, however long it might be, that we might be able to sit in the silence this morning, and from that place of deep wisdom, hear that rallying cry. Know that sense of purpose. Hear what is ours to do. Just sitting with it in the silence. as we let go of the silence and return to this room and this place and this time. We know that we take with us this incredible power and strength, this innate wisdom that is within each and every one of us. We can call upon and we can rely upon and we can use to honor and serve our life. And so it is.